When they fired me for my attitude, I thanked them politely and packed my desk in silence. They never imagined one quiet clause would follow them for the rest of their careers. Before I begin, let me say this. If you have ever been treated unfairly, if you have ever been dismissed, ignored, or quietly pushed aside, if you believe that calm dignity can be stronger than loud anger, then take a moment now, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and settle in with me, because this is not a story about shouting or revenge. This is a story about patience and truth. My name is Margaret, and this is what happened to me. I was 56 years old when I lost my job. I had worked at that company for almost 17 years. 17 quiet, dependable years. I arrived early, I left late, I never raised my voice, I never missed a deadline. I worked in compliance. Not the glamorous side of the business, the careful side, the side that reads every line, the side T asks, what if? Before trouble comes, most people didn't notice me, and that was fine. I liked being useful without being loud. At home, life was simple. My husband Daniel had retired early due to his knees. He spent most mornings in the garden, humming old songs. We had one son, Andrew, already married and living 2 states away. Evenings were quiet. Dinner at the same small table, soft television sounds, occasional laughter. I wasn't chasing promotions. I wasn't competing with anyone. I just wanted to finish my career with dignity, or at least, that's what I thought. Things changed when the new management arrived. They were younger, sharper suits, fast talkers. They liked words like efficiency and streamlining. Hey didn't like questions, and I asked questions, not loud ones, not dramatic ones, just careful ones. Should we document that? Have legal reviewed this? Is this consistent with our policy? At first they smiled, then they sighed. They stopped inviting me to meetings. I noticed the change, but I stayed calm. I had seen management cycles before. They come and go, but policies remain. The first warning came during my annual review. My supervisor, Karen, folded her hands and smiled tightly. Margaret, she said, your work is accurate, very accurate. I nodded. Accuracy was my job, but she continued, there have been comments about your attitude. I blinked. My attitude? She glanced at her screen. You can come across as resistant. I thought carefully before speaking. I follow policy, that's all. She nodded again too quickly. Of course, but we're trying to move faster now. I left that meeting unsettled, not angry, just aware after. That little things started happening. Emails I wasn't copied on, decisions made without documentation, short deadlines that ignored procedure. Each time I gently reminded them, and each time the room felt colder. The meeting that changed Eve. Writhing. One Tuesday afternoon, I was called into a conference room. 3 people were there. Karen, a man from HR I barely knew, and a legal consultant with a briefcase. Karen spoke first. Margaret, we've decided to end your employment effect. Today. The words landed softly like snow, but they froze everything. May I ask why? I said calmly. The HR man cleared his throat. Attitude issues. I waited. Karen avoided my eyes. There's been a pattern of negativity. I felt my slow, not race. I've never raised my voice, I said. I've never refused a task. Karen exhaled sharply. It's not about that. They slid a folder toward me. Inside was a termination agreement, severance, non-disclosure, standard language. I took my time reading. Years in compliance had taught me one thing: never rush a signature. Halfway down page 4, I saw it. A clause, small, quiet. A compliance-related indemnification clause. I read it twice. Then a third time, it stated that by terminating me, the company acknowledged that all compliance concerns I had raised were valid, documented, and unresolved. I looked up slowly. Is this correct? I asked. The legal consultant shifted in his chair. Karen frowned. It's standard. I nodded. Then I'll need time to review. The HR man smiled tightly. You have until end of day. I closed the folder gently. Thank you, I said, and I stood up. I packed my desk quietly. Photos, a mug, 17 years in. One cardboard box. No one looked at me. No one said goodbye. As I walked out, rain began to fall. And I realized something. They thought this was over. It wasn't. I drove home slowly that evening. The rain tapped softly against the windshield. Steady and patient. I didn't turn on the radio. I needed the quiet. At home, Daniel looked up from the kitchen table when I walked in. He didn't ask questions right away. He never did. "You're early," he said gently. I placed the cardboard box down by the door. "I was let go," I said. He stood up at once, but I raised my hand. "I'm all right," I told him. "Just tired." We sat together after dinner, the dishes still drying in the rack. I opened the folder again and laid the papers full. On the table, Daniel watched me read, slowly, line by line. "This part," I said, tapping the page lightly. "This clause." He leaned closer. "What about it?" "It protects me," I said quietly, "and it does something else." I explained it him in plain words. That clause said the company accepted responsibility for unresolved compliance issues. I had already documented. It meant they could not later deny knowing about them. It meant they could not say I was the problem. Daniel, why? Sled softly under his breath. "Do they know what they signed?" "I don't think so," I said. And that was the moment I realized something important. They hadn't fired me because of my attitude. They fired me because I wouldn't stop writing things. At exactly 9 o'clock the next morning, my phone rang, unknown number. I answered calmly. "Margaret," a familiar voice said. It was the legal consultant, the confident one from the meeting. "Good morning," I replied. There was a pause. Then his voice softened. "We'd like to discuss the termination agreement." I smiled, though he couldn't see it. "Of course," I said. "I'm reviewing it carefully." Another pause. "There's a clause," he said slowly, as if choosing each word. "We believe it may have been included in error." I looked out the window at Daniel trimming the rose bushes. "I don't think so," I replied. "It reflects my documented work." Silence. Then, very quietly, "Our legal team would like to revisit the—" I folded the papers neatly. "I'm open to discussion," I said, "after my attorney reviews it." The call ended shortly after that. What they were afraid of. Over the next 3 days, the calls continued. Different voices, same nervous one. They weren't angry. They were careful. One woman from legal spoke so gently it almost sounded like an apology. "Margaret," she said, "we value your contributions." I said nothing. She continued, "There are implications." I knew exactly She meant, that clause meant regulators could ask questions. It meant auditors could trace emails. It meant timelines mattered. And my name was on all of it. Every memo, every warning, every quiet concern I had raised over the years. They hadn't fired a difficult employee. They had dismissed their memory. The meeting revisited. They asked me to come in for a discussion. I agreed, not to argue, not to demand, just to listen. The same conference room, different mood, coffee queue. PS untouched, hands folded, eyes careful. Karen wouldn't meet my gaze. The head of legal spoke. "We're prepared to offer an amended agreement," he said. "Improved severance, extended benefits." I nodded. "And the clause?" I asked gently. He cleared his throat. "We'd like it removed." I folded my hands the way my mother taught me. "I can't agree to that," I said. The room felt very still. Karen finally spoke. "Why not?" I looked at her kindly. "Because it's the truth," I said. "And I've lived by it for 17 years. No one argued. The quiet power of patience. I didn't threaten them. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't say the word lawsuit. I simply waited, and waiting made them nervous. 2 days later, they sent a revised agreement. The clause stayed. The severance doubled, healthcare extended, a written statement acknowledging my professionalism. No apology, but something better, respect, aftermath. I signed, not because I had won, but because I was done. When I left the building that final time, the sun was out, the rain had passed. I walked slowly to my car, 17 years behind me, but my integrity intact, and that mattered more than any title. After everything was signed, the house felt different. Not empty, just still. For the first few mornings, I woke up at the same time as always, 5:30, no alarm needed, old habits don't leave quickly. I made coffee, sat at the table, and stared at the wall where my work calendar used to hang. Daniel noticed before I said anything. "You don't have to rush anymore," he said softly one morning. I nodded, but my hands still moved fast, as if I might be late for something. It takes time to unlearn survival, the emotional aftermath. People think justice feels loud. They think it comes with cheers or tears or raised voices. But mine came quietly. It arrived as relief. No more emails to answer. No more meetings where truth was inconvenient. No more pretending not to notice what felt wrong. I hadn't realized how heavy my chest had been until it wasn't. One afternoon, I sat in the living room while the sunlight stretched across the floor. I listened to nothing. And for the first time in years, that fell. Like enough. The call I didn't expect. About 2 weeks later, my phone rang again. This time, it was an unfamiliar voice, polite, professional. "Margaret, my name is Ellen. I work with an external audit firm." I listened carefully. She explained that they were reviewing historical compliance records. My name had come up several times. "We'd like to ask a few questions," she said. I didn't feel nervous. "I'll answer what I can," I said calmly. "We spoke for an hour. I didn't spec you. Late. I didn't accuse. I simply described what I had seen, what I had documented, what I had flagged." When the call ended, I felt no triumph, only certainty. Truth doesn't need drama. It stands on its own. Reactions from the past. Months pass. Said. I ran into an old coworker at the grocery store. She looked thinner, tired. "They've been changing things," she whispered near the produce aisle. "Policies, leadership." I nodded. "They talk about you," she added. "About how careful you." I smiled gently. "I always was," I said. That was all what revenge really looked like. Some people call what happened revenge. I don't. Revenge usually burns hot. It wants to hurt. What I felt was cooler than that. It was balance. I didn't take anything from them. I didn't expose secrets. I let their own words sit where they belonged. And when pressure came, it came from the truth they had ignored. That kind of justice doesn't leave scars. It leaves lessons, healing at home. At home, life softened. Daniel and I took longer walks. We planted herbs in the backyard. We ate dinner earlier. Sometimes we sat in silence, not the heavy kind, the peaceful kind. One evening, Daniel looked at me and said, "You're light." I touched my chest. "I feel lighter," I said. Closure. I didn't miss the job. I missed the version of myself that believed loyalty would always be returned. But I didn't regret my years there. I had done my work honestly, thoroughly, with care. And in the end, that was what protected me. Not anger, not cleverness, just integrity. There is something people don't tell you about endings. They don't arrive with noise. They don't announce themselves. Most of the time, they sit beside you quietly and wait until you notice. Weeks after everything settled, I found myself standing in the kitchen one evening, watching the kettle steam. The house was warm. Daniel was reading in the other room. And for the first time, I wasn't playing conversations in my head. I wasn't wondering what I should have said or what I should have done differently. The story had stopped asking me questions. What I learned about strength. For most of my life, I believed strength meant endura. Keep going. Keep your head down. Be useful. Don't make trouble. And for a long time, that worked. But there is another kind of strength, a quieter one. It's the strength to tell the truth even when no one applauds. The strength to document and what others want to forget. The strength to walk away without slamming the door. That strength doesn't look impressive in the moment, but it lasts. Why I never spoke badly of them. People ask me later why I never told my side loudly, why I didn't post, why I didn't warn others publicly. The answer is simple. I didn't need to. The truth already knew where to go. When you speak calmly, people listen longer. When you stay quiet, others fill the silence with their own questions. Anne. When you leave cleanly, your absence becomes noticeable, the real revenge. If you're looking for revenge in this story, I understand. We're taught to expect it, but here is the honest truth. The most powerful moment wasn't when they panicked. It wasn't when they rewrote agreements. It was when I slept peacefully afterward. Revenge didn't come from hurting them. It came from not carrying their fear with me anymore. That was freedom. If you are listening to this and feeling overlooked, if you've been told your tone is the problem when the truth makes others uncomfortable, if you're tired of being careful in a world that rewards shortcuts, please remember this: your calm is not weakness, your patience is not invisibility, and your integrity is never wasted. Even when no one thanks you, especially then. I didn't leave with anger, I didn't leave with bitterness. I left with my name intact, my sleep undisturbed, my conscience clear, and that, I've learned, is the cool, quietest kind of victory. If this story stayed with you, if it reminded you of your own quiet battles, please take a moment to like this video. Subscribe to the channel for more real-life stories told with honesty and heart. And tell me in the comments, have you ever witnessed a moment where silence spoke louder than anger? Thank you for listening, and until next time, be gentle with yourself.